Welcome to Talkin' Jets. My name is Ryan, and I'll be your pilot tonight. I am joined alongside my co-pilot, Jeremy. How you doing, Jeremy?
What's going on? I'm good. It's Monday, beginning of a new week. Lots to talk about.
So much to get into. We're watching the Knicks-Pacers game. Knicks are up 21-17 right now at the Garden. Feeling good. Rangers won yesterday. New York's feeling pretty decent. There is a poll question in the chat for all you that hang out and listen to Kendrick and Drake. Which one you got? If you're listening to the diss tracks, you like Kendrick, you like Drake. I'm curious to see what you guys think. I know what I think. I'm going to keep that secret for a little bit, and then I'll let you guys know my thoughts on that sort of stuff. All right. So, Jeremy, we've got a little bit of news coming out of rookie camp or out of the Jets facility with all the rookies reporting to camp. Got to see some plays and whatnot. Are there any rookies that you're particularly excited about? Maybe some that maybe we aren't hearing every single day.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say hearing about every day. I'm this guy Stiggers, from Toronto, the Argonauts. I'm really excited about this kid. I think I'm sorry, Stiggers, right? Did I say it right the first time? He's starting to. I'm starting to hear things that's pretty exciting, and I don't know how good he's going to be. I'm more excited about the ceiling because just based on what a lot of people are saying about him and a lot of people have said about him on his ascension from nowhere to where he is now, there's a lot of people that at every level that he's gotten that have been blown away by what they're seeing and not believing it.
Yeah, it's pretty fun to watch, and just knowing that he has the athletic upside, hearing his story, and I guess we can get into that first. Let's pull that up. We did get to hear from him and a little bit about where he came from. So this is him talking about his particular story and coming up.
Story short, you want the whole thing? I under recruited in high school. Kind of like a smaller kid that went to a smaller high school in the city. Had a couple offers from some NAIA schools like Allen and Reinhardt University. Ended up getting an offer from Lane College of D2. I committed there. In maybe like February. And then my dad got into a car accident in September. My dad got into a car accident in February. I graduated from high school in May, reported to Lane in August, and he passed in September, so I dropped out. Came home, be close to my siblings. I got 13 siblings, including my step-siblings, 11 boys, 2 girls. So did that. Worked from the time I was dropped out. Then my mom signed me up for this league called Fan Control. Went there, won co-defensive player of the year. Got an opportunity to play in the CFL. Went there, won CFL Rookie of the Year. And then a lot of people ask me like, what's my plan? I was like, honestly, just play ball. And then I got an opportunity to play in the NFL. So of course, the Toronto Argonauts supported me through this whole process and helped me and guided me to get here.
So pretty remarkable story. 13 brothers and sisters. Dad tragically passes away right before he goes to college, or maybe goes right to college and then ends up having to leave. This guy had to grow up in a hurry and then wound up finding his way to the NFL by alternative means, gets Canadian Rookie of the Year. That sort of stuff is the type of character and high upside swing that I really like taking in the later rounds of the draft. So I'm with you. I'm excited about Stiggers.
Yeah. I mean, imagine how well you have to perform to climb back from that. He's just some guy working 5 different jobs, trying to support his family, and now he's going to join some semi-pro league and somehow get picked up by the Toronto CFL. I mean, it's an extraordinary story. And even originally out of high school, only going to a Division II, people will ask about that. But it was a small school that doesn't typically get scouted or send people to Division I schools. So he never had the opportunity to show how good he is.
Yeah, so finally being able to see him. I feel like he's going to be one of the key guys that I watch in the preseason, along with Jordan Travis. I mean, obviously all the rookies are someone we're going to highlight, but I feel like seeing where these guys could potentially go at you know, maybe lesser known roles, or maybe just the mystique or mystery around them. Like obviously Jordan Travis with the injury, you have the running backs with like, how are we going to utilize them? Are they going to be more pass blockers? Are they going to be, you know, more of a focal point in the running game? And then obviously, you know, 𝐒𝐨𝐦 𝐂 and some of these other undrafted free agents are going to be really, really interesting. Blitz Crew pops in. What's up, Blitz Crew? Let me get my comment on the screen, if it's going to work for me. Sorry. Should really prepare this better. All right. Coming up? It's not coming up. Give me 1 second. I'll get it straightened out. Jeremy, you got any thoughts additionally on Stiggers while I figure this out?
I'll just say, you know, he's the kind of guy, he's the kind of player that you're going to root for no matter what. Like this is a guy you can't dislike. If he's not good enough and if he doesn't work out, we didn't draft him high enough to be upset about it, and we're always going to like him, and we're probably going to be more disappointed if he doesn't work out because he's such a likable human being than it is about the draft pick or the player not working out.
All right, Blitz Crew comes in. What's up, Blitz? Blitz says, we'll be getting a Stigger jersey, no matter the production. Won't regret it. Everyone not competing with him for cornerback should be cheering for him. Yeah, this is a guy that I think it's going to be hard to root against. I feel like that way for a lot of our rookies as well. Like Olu comes in, he says he wants to play any position or is willing to move to any position after we saw him play exclusively at the left tackle. That's a far call from where Mekhi Becton was just a few years ago, saying, I am a left tackle. You got Malachi Corley, who's willing to just steamroll dudes, gives up a $350,000 NIL deal to go away from Western Kentucky, shows them the loyalty to sit there and stay, you know, home at school. And then you got Braylon Allen willing to like knock dudes on their butts. Davis the same way. His favorite thing is just, you know, hitting blitzing linebackers and decleating them. And then obviously Jordan Travis coming from, you know, the terrible injury and having that adversity. Every one of these guys has some type of like character hook for me that just has me hook, line, and sinker. I very much like the makeup of this class.
They do an incredible job as far as, and I think it's the first time really in my memory as a Jets fan that we put so much emphasis on character and the right kind of people. And it makes it more fun to root for them because you're rooting for, you know, good quality kids. You know, these are young men that you can admire, respect, because they're good people and they're likable. So it makes it more fun for me. I feel that way, to be a fan of them and to root for them on the field.
Now let's go into some of that character that I really like. Did you hear Malachi Corley's comments talking about like what type of player he is? Here, listen to this. This is just absolutely awesome.
There's a lot of receivers in the NFL that you see them catch the ball and immediately get down. They catch the ball and they run out of bounds.
No doubt.
You don't do that.
Nah, that ain't me.
Yeah. Why? Why? Like, what about you makes it seem like you crave the physical aspect of the content?
I just love football. I think I love football and I love life. And I think that part of my calling card is to be a good football player. And I think that the Lord has blessed me with some talents and abilities and a confidence that's out of this world. And I think that every time I get the ball in my hands, you know, I'm just ready to punish somebody every single time I get it. That's just that's the way I like to play the game. Getting in the weight room and getting stronger and being physically outmatching guys, you know, knowing that defensive backs don't really want to tackle and you'll give it to a linebacker at the same time. So just every time I get the ball, I'm trying to make something happen with it, and just running through guys just my way of imposing my will.
Yeah, listening to this guy talk is like absolutely everything I want in a Jet football player. He's like, yeah, I'm not looking to go down. I'm just looking to like knock dudes on their ass. Linebacker, come and get it. I'm excited for this dude. I think he's going to be a fan favorite very quickly.
Yeah, I highly recommend to anybody who watches film, watching highlights of him, do not put it in slow motion. This is the kind of guy you want to watch full speed, because to really appreciate how hard he runs and how hard he hits defenders, you don't want to slow that down. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty fun to watch.
So I see Zachary in the chat says, does anyone know what the chain means on Corley? I can't see the letters, but it looks like it might be ATC after the catch. Is that what that is?
It is. That's great how fast you figured that out.
Yeah, I was trying to. I thought it might have been yak originally, but I was like, that's not how those letters look.
No,
So
I think you're right. I think that's what it is.
I think it's ATC.
That's
We'll
great.
probably see better pictures of it as it, as we go through camp and everything. Blitzkrieg's already like, hell yeah! Now I want a Corley jersey too.
He's fun, man. He's fun to watch.
Zachary says, looks like KTB. It might be KTB. I have no idea what that would stand for, though.
Well, King would be because he's the King Yak.
Yeah. I mean,
He's
it
the
definitely
king.
looks like a T.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I could see KTB. I could see ETB. I could see ATB. See, chat doesn't know what's going on. Alex is feeling the same thing. I'm seeing KTB as well. So maybe I'm blind.
At least
Mine,
it's
at
not
least,
KG.
I feel like mine made sense. Yo, check this out. Jeremy, I got my new Garrett Wilson jersey today.
I love it. Look at
Pumped.
that. I'm looking. Oh, I love it. I'm trying to see if I can rip the 2 off my Zach Wilson jersey and flip it like upside down, upside out, make it a 5.
Just unstitch it, just flip it right side up.
Yeah.
I love it.
But oh man, nice though, man. That looks great.
Thank you. The green is sharp. I'm definitely a huge fan. I never get the stitch stuff. This is all like that heat press. So like people don't like it, like kick rocks. I don't care. I feel like it sits better on me like this. I tried on one of the Vapor jerseys and like for whatever reason, I don't know if I just don't have the shoulders to like fill it out the right way, but it feels like it droops more down on the neck than I would like. Let's see. Let's move on to Jordan Travis. Coach Sala had a few things to say about one Jordan Travis. Let's listen to him.
He's a tremendous athlete. We feel like he's kind of a ball of clay. You know, there's a lot of these kids are coming from college, and the style of college. It's tremendous schemes, but they're more tailor-made to what they can and can't do rule-wise at the college level. And so you're getting these quarterbacks who have, when it comes to footwork and throwing motion and just being able to process and working in NFL offense, getting under center, controlling the huddle, all that good stuff. There's so many things that we feel like we can build on that athleticism, and so there's a lot of excitement with regards to that.
So how are you feeling about Jordan Travis? Like, obviously he's not practicing yet. We're seeing a little bit of him throw the ball, but he's not like in drills. It's just off to the side, still rehabbing, obviously.
It's probably my favorite pick in those late rounds. The reason is the reality is that these kind of picks after the 3rd round, quarterbacks 3 rounds or longer, have about a 3.5% chance of ever becoming anything significant. And we probably could all name the 5 to 6 quarterbacks since 2020 since 2000 that have, but but it makes it exciting because we know that this is not just like every other guy that wasn't able to turn a scout's head. It was the injury. And if you look at him before the injury and what he was doing for that school and the kind of program that he made them, he makes all the throws, which is really exciting. It's not just, he's thrown open to wide open guys. His deep passes are in stride. You could find film of like him making every throw, including touch throws. So that's a real nice thing right there. It's just good knowing he can come in and throw a full route tree.
Yeah, and you know what? Having him be able to sit behind Aaron Rodgers, because I know Dom harps on it a little bit, the accuracy, when he misses, it was a wide miss. And I feel like having that little bit of time to digest the playbook, understand some of the speed of the NFL level, and just kind of, figuring out your own teammates too, and being able to have that, like, I want him to be able to react rather than think. Like with Zach, it always felt like he was trying to think about what to do and not just like understand like, okay, this is what's happening on this play because this guy's lined up here. Like that's what you're looking for in a quarterback. And I feel like Jordan Travis has all the athletic gifts. If he could just soak up all that knowledge from Aaron Rodgers and even Tyrod Taylor, like you could learn a lot from both guys. Tyrod's been around the league on multiple different teams, can provide a totally different type of insight than what Aaron Rodgers could provide.
Yeah, I think Tyrod Taylor might be able to help more just based on, in some regard, just based on the style of player.
Mm-hmm.
in the style of play. Tyrod Taylor has a similar type of mobility and those things when he was younger. So it could really help him with the balance of, when to run, when to scramble, how to use your legs without overusing them and taking away from, yourself as a quarterback in the pocket.
I see a bunch of people in the chat. Boys and girls, make sure you hit that like button if you're just popping in here. Don't forget to vote in our poll question, too, if you guys are into the rap battle between Kendrick Lamar and Drake. It's been a lot of fun to listen to the last 3 days, 4 days, whatever it's been. I see Brian in the chat. Brian has a thought for what KTB stands for. It is, where it is, bam. Cutthroat business. That's the spelling, slightly off. Blitzkrieg says, Chain looks like KTB zoomed in a picture, not sure what it stands for. Who knows? Malachi. I feel like someone's got to ask this dude. Like, it's already, I feel like if you see it and you don't know the acronym, it's got to be it. Fresh says KTB as well. So maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, now it's just a matter of figuring out what that means. So, kick the ball.
kick the ball. I have aspirations to be a punter. I could be running back, I could be wide receiver, I could be returner. I also want to kick the ball. I love it. Going on to someone that a lot of Jet fans are getting pretty hyped on, and someone that was an undrafted free agent, Leonard Taylor III, defensive tackle out of Miami, is someone that I think a lot of people are starting to wake up to, at least be aware of his pressure rates and some of the upside that he possesses. Now, his biggest knock coming into the league has been effort or taking plays off or playing out of position. He was playing the nose tackle down at Miami last year, and definitely not the role that he should probably be playing. He's not really a space eater, but his first step is really, really fast. So if you could plan to put him next to, Quinnen Williams, maybe as a John Franklin Myers replacement, what are your thoughts on Leonard Taylor?
When you watch, I watched him every play versus Clemson and every play versus Florida State. What I noticed is he definitely has potential to be excited about, in that both in pass rush and run stopping, he could be very explosive. He's got a combination of power and speed. He's come off blocks, made great run stops coming off of blocks. Great disruption in the backfield. When if he finds space, he'll pop through, create a lot of disruption. With me, what I noticed, I don't know if it was taking plays off or just inconsistency, like lack of engine, because sometimes he'd get the engine going, because what I noticed is good plays were really close together, and then it would just be average reps, and then boom, there would be 3 or 4 great reps all consecutively, or within a few plays. One thing I did notice is that he needs to work on his balance. So a lot of times he'll come through, he'll get past the block, but when he does, he's off balance and he gets pushed over and knocked over. So he has a great initial burst, but he has to do it within his own ability to keep his balance, because surging past somebody without balance is not going to help you, because then, you're just going to fall on your face. So you're not going to be able to make the adjustment to tackle whoever you're going after. So that was the one thing that I really stood out to me was, wow, he's making some good plays, but then there are times where he's just coming through like and falling on his face or falling down or being out of position. So he definitely needs to work on that, and he definitely might benefit from a rotation, because it seems that he gives all this burst and energy and then he kind of just runs out of steam.
Jeremy, check your microphone. Make sure it's hooked up to your actual, in the settings itself. I may be catching, I can hear you clearly. I can hear you fine. But it sounds like maybe your hands on the keyboard or something is hitting a microphone. So it sounds like it might be coming out of your laptop there. Blitzkrieg comes in. Blitzkrieg says, if Taylor can't get his act together with the Jets, no team will. Hopefully Quinnen will get him straight, right? Yeah, you can't ask for a better spot to land in than a defensive team with a defensive head coach with a top 3 defense and a lot of pass rush opportunities seemingly coming in your future. If you can't make it here, I don't know how many other teams are really going to be loving what you're bringing to the table. Do you see him as a potential John Franklin Myers replacement here?
I think he could have that kind of ceiling. That would be the tip top of the ceiling. I think he could be a good NFL player like JFM or somewhere, close to that level, but it's going to take time. He's not going to make an impact this year. I see him more as, I don't know if they'll even use a roster spot. He might be practice squad, or if they're afraid to lose him and maybe they like him a lot more, they do protect him and he doesn't dress. But I just think there's things that he has to work on. He has to work on his body control and balance and stamina. Those are
Words are
those
hard.
are those are things I think he's going to have to work on. I think he's a little bit of a development project. I think that's why you saw him slip out of the draft and why he was available.
Yeah, and just like it seems like a really big fall from grace after being considered like a first round caliber talent this time last year. I feel like the Jets got a steal here. If this guy really can show out, I feel like there's a lot of upside from what it seems like. Let's go through. We'll just throw some of the pictures from camp up on the screen. If you guys got any comments, questions, concerns, throw them our way. Jeremy, you were talking to me prior to the stream. There's another player that you really like that you don't hear as many fans talking about. So who is that?
Yeah, a guy I was watching, I was going through the plays, and there's a guy named Brady Latham. I know we heard so much about JC, but Brady Latham is from, I believe, Louisville, and is a guard. And I am having trouble understanding why he wasn't talked about more. I watched him against Alabama, so I only had one game of film to watch, but it was Alabama, right? So he's going up against real guys. He's going up against guys that'll be NFL players, and he stood out to me. He's good size. He's 300 plus pounds. He's about 6'3", I believe, 6'4". He is excellent against the run. I think he has good hands. He locks people up. He moves people. There's running plays. There's examples of running plays where he pushes people across the line of scrimmage 3 or 4 yards. He's solid in pass protection, probably stronger against the run, but nothing that stood out as a real concern against pass protection. Maybe just needs to grow, develop, get a little bit stronger. So that's a guy I'm predicting that Brady Latham is going to possibly surprise. Very easily, obviously, can end up on the practice squad, but I don't expect him to get completely cut and released based on what I saw. Based on what I saw, I'm surprised more people aren't talking about him. I think that he actually has a ceiling where he could be a starting guard one day.
Yeah, and I saw Samini had a tweet, I don't know if it was today or last night, talking about the Jets too deep position-wise, and basically the entire interior part of our offensive line, left guard, center, right guard, was Wes Schweitzer as our as our backup for every single position. So it's like, all right, I do expect us to bring Connor McGovern back, but there is definitely the possibility that Latham could stick with the New York Jets. I know there's another local kid, or relatively local kid, the center from Rutgers was also visiting. I don't think he's signed. Ireland Brown is someone that I would keep an eye on as well. Maybe that guy could end up being some much needed depth, maybe on the practice squad or something along those lines. Kind of neat. We need help on that interior, I think, at this point.
Absolutely. It's absolutely shocking that McGovern is not a Jet right now.
I see Lawrence in the chat. Lawrence asks, I hope we can find a way to add a wide receiver that can be some kind of contribution. I don't trust our depth behind the three. So obviously Garrett, Williams, and Malachi Corley. What are your thoughts on receivers 4, 5, 6? And how do you see that playing out? Did the Jets add anyone? Is it more of the same guys that were here last year? Who are those final three?
I don't think you're going to see anybody added that's going to be any significant money. So if there's anybody left that we could sign, no more than $4 million, maybe you'll see it happen. But the reality is, I think we're being a little too hard on some of the guys from last year. I think that Xavier Gipson and Brownlee were rookies, and it's very normal, especially when you're not a prize top 10 pick, for rookies to have to develop over time. I mean, Wayne Corbett, we watched him go from can't make the roster and worked his way up WR5, WR4, 3-2, all the way to the point where he was a starting wide receiver and one of the most popular ever, in our franchise. So I think there's got to be a little bit of more patience. And also, um, you know, some people have bad years. And when you have a wide receiver that has caught 900 yards from Aaron Rodgers, and then Aaron Rodgers is now going to be back, and that wide receiver is your WR4, maybe we're being too hard on that kid, and maybe it's not such a bad WR4. And like any other team, of course, we don't want injuries and we don't want our WR4 to be our WR2, but maybe we're overreacting to like how much of a weakness he is.
Yeah, I do fall in that same sort of camp, and I don't think we're adding any more wide receivers either. People say Boyd. I think there's a possible chance of adding Devontae Adams at the trade deadline if something were to go wrong, like maybe Mike Williams gets hurt again, or Garrett has some type of thing going on, and the Raiders don't have a future quarterback right now. They got Gardner Minshew, who I do like, but I don't think anyone's going to consider him like a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. I know Devontae wanted to see either Jaden Daniels or Michael Penix drafted. Neither one of those guys wound up going there, so it's Aiden O'Connell versus Gardner Minshew. I think that's the only player I could see from a wide receiver perspective really making any noise on the New York Jets roster. Because like you said, I agree. I think Lazard is wide receiver 4 on this team. And in that role, I'm happy to have him in that. I think he can bounce back. I think he's one of the players that you look towards and just say, last year was an aberration, from the last few years. And it's not to say he was anything great with Green Bay, but we know what his level of play was with Aaron Rodgers. And now that was with him being a number 1, maybe a number 2 wide receiver for a lot of that time. Now he's coming in, going to be wide receiver 4. I think there's a lot more, taken off his plate, and he's going to be able to I think early on have some success, because I think he's going to play instead of Mike Williams, at least to start, or maybe we'll split snaps a little bit more favorably towards Lazard. With Gibson and Brownlee, I don't think they're necessarily locks to make the roster. Gibson had a lot of fumbling issues last year. I remember in training camp, obviously we saw it a few times in the game. Brownlee and Irv Charles are the two towards the end of the roster. If Irv Charles is going to provide a little bit more special teams capability, maybe that's something they decide to keep. If they like Brownlee's size, maybe there's something to that, and they're like, hey, Corley can fill in a little bit more on special teams, but they're going to be doing different things, Corley and Irv Charles. So I don't know how much of wide receiver 6 is going to have to be special teams, and do you see Brownlee making this roster, or Gibson for that matter?
I think it's going to be harder for Brownlee. I think they like Gibson. I think they talk about him a lot, how dangerous he is when he gets the ball. I think that we all know, we all say it about every other wide receiver. There's all this fear of how is our offensive coordinator possibly going to scheme this guy in? We're wasting. That's why people are against Corley. Like, how would we use him? People said the same thing about Brock Bowers. How would we use him? We have a horrible offensive coordinator. We won't be able to scheme him in. Well, if we're being fair, Gibson was stuck with that offensive coordinator and no Aaron Rodgers. But that doesn't, but the talent was very obvious. His explosiveness, how dangerous he could be with the football. Now, when you have Aaron Rodgers on the field, remember, he's an offensive coach on the field. You're giving him the personnel. He's looking at the defense and calling the plays. He could put Xavier in good position, and again, rookies develop, they get better typically. Almost every player in the NFL gets better than their rookie year. It's very rare you have that you get worse as a player and you regress. I think that Brownlee is in trouble because there's only so many spots. And like you said, Irv Charles is not just good on special teams, he's special. And, he could very well, before they got Oliver, I thought he was going to be the new special team ace, to be honest. And he still might be like that. It might be that he might become that in the future.
I see Dakota comes in and says, Braylon is another Breece Hall. We have 2 Breece Halls and 2 Tyron Smiths with Olu Fashanu. Look, I really like Braylon Allen a lot. He doesn't move the same way Breece moves, like very different running backs, but the compliment to Breece and the excitement I have for a 4th round pick is unmatched. I am so pumped to watch this kid run. And even Davis, as I've watched more and more of him, both these running backs paired with Brees and paired with Izzy. Those are going to be the 4 guys that go into the season. And it's just really fascinating to see how we're going to deploy them. And just like, are those guys going to focus on the pass protection? Are they going to be able to show some of the home run hitting threat they were able to see? And Tyron Smith, if Olu Fashanu winds up being 85% of what Tyron Smith is, that is a home run number 11 pick overall. Do you see Allen being similar to Hall and Olu being similar to Tyron?
I see Braylon being the complete bell cow backup running back to Hall. Like, I think the other guys have more role. Like, Isaiah Davis is going to be power, for power situations, third quarter, a fourth quarter with a big lead. He's going to wear the line down. We can just use him as a pounder. I see, if he stays on the team, Izzy will be a change of pace, wear down the, close game, wear down the defense, bring him in. If he can hit a hole, he's gone because he got a tired defense, like that kind of thing. But I think Braylon is the backup cow. Like, in other words, if, knock on wood, Hall was to go down or miss a game, I think that Braylon Allen would be the RB1 replacing him and, getting the 20 to 25 carries. But I'm not going to put him at the level of Brees Hall because, to be fair, I'm not going to put any guy coming out of college at the level of Brees Hall. I consider Brees Hall potentially the best or certainly top 3 running back in the NFL. So I'm not going to make that prediction and say that's what Braylon has to do. But I think if he was an RB1 on some other team and he was a top 15 running back in the NFL, it would not shock me.
Sneakers Boots comes in and says, McGovern is okay, but Herbig would be better. Herbig fits the power gap scheme better than McGovern. I like Herbig. I didn't realize he was a free agent. Was his last stop Philly, or was he somewhere else prior to that, like between here and Philly?
I didn't know he was actually released. Well, for some reason, I thought he was on Pittsburgh, but
maybe he's on Pittsburgh. We got him from Philly initially, I think.
Right, and I think he was someone we talked about could be cut because of salary, but I don't think that's happened yet, though. Like, I think he's still technically on Pittsburgh's roster.
Let's see. I guess I should go to Over the Cap. That's probably the best way to do it. I'm going to Google. Nate Herbig is on the Steelers. He could save $1 million, $1.4 million if he is cut pre-June 1st. If he is cut post-June 1st, it's the same amount of money. So I don't know. I don't think they're going to cut him. It doesn't seem like that would be... I mean, unless they really like the guys they drafted and they want to start them right away. But I feel like at least having them compete with him. Maybe Herbig gets released around like cut down day for the the end of training camp. I'd be all right with that. I like Herbig. Any thoughts on him?
I just think, it's not enough money that you'd cut him and release him unless every young guy hit. You just didn't have the roster spots. I mean, even if he's the last guy on the roster to make the 10th guy, you're not going to cut him because of money. I mean, he's a solid piece. That's why we like him. They have to see that as well. I think you'd have to look for a trade if you want. If he came here, it would be via some kind of trade. I'm not saying it would be a lot, but we'd probably have to give something.
Fresh comes in, says, I think we should have drafted the wide receiver out of UCF, Baker. He would have been wide receiver number 4 or 5, not Brownlee. He was taken 1 pick before the Jets. He was taken pick 110. So there is speculation that the Jets were going to take him. And then when he went, the Jets kind of panicked and wound up trading for less value with the Packers, if I'm not mistaken. Was that the thought process you heard, Jeremy?
I've heard it. I haven't heard anything that makes me know that it's true, but I've definitely heard it going around for sure. I don't trust a lot of things that are heard unless it comes out of the mouth of someone, that's already been validated as giving factual things that are true.
That is fair. There's a lot of stuff that gets thrown out there. Paris comes in and says, Connor McGovern got hurt late last year. He might not be healthy right now. I guess that's possible. I feel like I think he is going to come back. That just seems like he took the minimum last year. Why wouldn't he take the minimum this year to try and do it again? Like, anyone who was on this roster at the start of the season that was super hyped, I feel like would want to, at least fulfill the same contract they had. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. You think, you see McGovern coming back?
He might be coming back. They might already have a quiet agreement he's coming back. Maybe he's still rehabbing and doesn't want to be bothered with the camps or anything. Maybe he's just doing his own private rehab and he's deciding. And maybe he's going to call them up and say, hey, I'm going to let you know by this date. And I mean, think about it. If like I was just hurt, I'm near the end of my career. There's a strong possibility that he's still deciding and that they're just waiting for him to make a decision sometime in the very near future.
David comes in and says, Rodgers can make Kuntz a weapon from the slot. We got guys who can block on the outside for the run. So Kuntz is a really interesting player because of that 10 RAS score, really raw coming out of college. Rodgers recently made those comments about him. Obviously, he played on the practice squad or scout team or whatever you want to call it with him towards the end of the season. Do you have any expectations for Kuntz, or what are your feelings towards him? Obviously, the athletic talent is there for sure.
I think I'm like everybody else. I mean, that we're all get excited about players because with that RAS score and his size, we're all seeing, wow, like you imagine him just being dominant, right? Like I think Gronk, like this big guy that can't be stopped. The only good news we heard out of him, the thing that was exciting to hear was because last year in camp, he looked so raw. He was very far. But the good thing we heard is if they're being honest, they've said a couple of times, I've heard Saleh say it, and the offensive, some of the offensive coaches say that he showed tremendous growth, that he was one of the guys who really showed a lot and really grew during last season. So that's exciting because he certainly has the athleticism and the size that if he has the instinct and the football IQ to play the game, he could be special.
Blitzkrieg says, everyone not named Denzel Mims gets better their second year compared to year one. Yeah, I mean, it certainly feels like we've had a rough go of like training rookies up until like that 2022 draft. So maybe things turn around. Like, do we see that big leap from Will McDonald the same way we saw it from Jermaine Johnson? I felt like you went into training camp last year and like Richie and I went to a bunch of the practices and you're sitting there watching Jermaine Johnson just like, wow, this guy is bigger. This guy is like here to make noise. And as you started to like get into preseason and into the regular season, you're like, this guy's going to be legit. Do you think we see that leap forward from a Will McDonald, or is there someone, let's say year two in general, or maybe the second year with this team that you are kind of identifying as a guy to watch out for?
I think it's definitely McDonald. When you look at the fact that he did get 3.5 sacks, and you look at the amount of reps he got, the amount of opportunity, and the fact that our team was always trailing, so everyone's production should go up once we start to have leads. He actually could have had a great rookie year between 8 and 10 sacks in a different situation. So look at his win rate. His win rate's incredible. There was one play in special teams on the field goal, whatever, when they were defending, where he ended up jumping over the line of scrimmage, like literally hurdled over everybody. I think he had moments where he showed just incredible athleticism. And I am not worried at all about last year, making me think that I didn't agree with the position that they chose in the draft, but I am certainly not doubting their judgment, the athlete, and their ability to develop them. I'm expecting a big, big year from him, a breakout year for sure.
Yeah, when you look at some of the little moments that he had, he popped off the tape. Like it didn't seem like the NFL was too big for him. He just didn't have a lot of opportunities because the guys in front of him were just better at that current position right now. And he's a little bit more of a liability. He's a little bit more of that specialty pass rusher. And you know what? He's going to get a lot of opportunities this year. And if he can round out his game between this year and next year, I think that's a successful pick for sure. And I agree with you. It's not so much that I don't like the player. It's I didn't love the position that they decided to go with last year, given some of the needs at wide receiver and on the offensive line. But yeah, I look forward to that. I want to see a really big year from Tippmann. Like, obviously we got to see like a little bit of guard. We got to see a little bit at center, but like, I want to sit back and know, like, this is your rock solid position that you're going to be. Cause I'm not necessarily sold that he's going to be the center, long-term. Like he was phenomenal at guard. I'd be happy at either one. Just getting one of the 5 offensive positions figured out is a win in my book. But like, do you see Tippmann as the long-term center for the New York Jets, or do you think he makes some move over to guard at some point? John Simpson's only on a 2-year contract, and we got AVT who's coming back on the 5th-year option.
Yeah, I could see them moving him over. But it doesn't. I'm getting the feeling that's not what they want. I'm getting this sense that they wanted to be the center. I think that if the plan was to move him out of the center position, they would have drafted one of the centers. There were centers that slipped so far in this draft, like SVD, and something, or Cedric Van.
John Michael Smiths, they had, or you're talking about in this particular draft this year.
Draft, yeah, there were a lot of guys that went really further down than we thought. So the fact that they didn't take a center, and they just have Wes, I think that they're seeing him right now that way. But I definitely know that he can be a guard. But we went through this with AVT. I mean, whatever they're going to do, I prefer they just get him into his position, let him get comfortable there, let him develop there, and just be that position.
Dakota says, big hopes for Braylon Allen to become the Dalvin Cook behind Breece that we never got to see. Yeah, don't give me Dalvin Cook 2.0. Give me give me young Dalvin Cook 2.0. That would be fantastic. You get someone to be the thunder behind Breece's lightning. I feel like that's the perfect situation. We're going to run the ball 450 plus times this year. Let's try to give Breece a little bit of a break so he's healthy and ready to go for the playoffs.
Yeah, this was the kid. Braylon, he was the kid I think a lot of us wanted, to the point where even if one of the other guys that were ranked ahead of him slipped, when I did my mocks, I was disappointed. I said, no, I won't go running back then. Like, I want Braylon Allen. Like, I don't want to take him too early, but I want him. And when we got him, I was jumping up and down. I was ecstatic. I love that kid. Like, I think he could be a really great running back, and he's going to be a great security blanket for us, because I do believe that he's an RB1 quality guy. Other teams, he'd be a starting running back.
So I saw a comment from Sneakers to Boots. He says, Ryan, what are your thoughts on Olu wearing number 74? Personally, I don't like it. Mangold is in the Ring of Honor. So you guys know I usually wear the Mangold jersey on a lot of my videos. I don't love Olu being a number 74 right now, but it is also rookie numbers. It's early on at minicamp. They're subject to change. We're also going to have like 100 dudes on this roster up until the final day of off-season activities, or training camp. So I think some of these numbers will change. I think Allen's probably staying at 0. I could see Travis staying at 3. I could see Corley. Do you think Corley stays at 17, Jeremy? Like, do you see any of these numbers changing? I guess, what are your thoughts on Fashanu in 74 first? And then what are your thoughts on maybe some of these other numbers?
I am shocked they haven't retired that number already.
He's in the Ring of Honor too.
Yeah, I don't know why. Like, I don't think he's keeping the number, and I think that, I don't know. Like, that, to me, it's, how could that not be a number that's retired? When it's already been filled, that number, with the best at the position, or one of the best. So I think it'll change. I think he's just probably wearing it because, almost maybe as a, like, respect, and maybe he loves the fact that he's getting to wear it. But it's hard to imagine they're going to let him have it.
Yeah, I don't see it. And any thoughts on any of the other numbers here? Adding the 0, like, obviously we had Amos in it, but like, we're going to see Allen on the offensive side of the ball. I like seeing 0 as an offensive player, like an X factor.
Yeah, no, I think he'll get 0. I think it's cool, and I wonder if when you talk about 17, I think it just depends if anybody else wanted it. Mm-hmm. Like, I think Garrett Wilson will be cool with it, but like, I think it just depends if anybody wants it or not, and seniority and that kind of thing. But if nobody else,
I mean, don't you think it's weird that he's going to have to change it midway through the season when Devontae Adams gets traded to us anyway?
From your
Who
mouth
knows?
To God.
We could all hope maybe. Like, obviously, if you get Devontae added into this room, that would be quite a bit of firepower coming from the wide receiver position. Let's see, just going through the chat here. Paris says, I hope Will McDonald becomes good, but the smart thing would have been to extend Bryce Huff last year and draft JSN at wide receiver. Yeah, I think that would have been my play as well. Obviously, I was hoping for one of the offensive linemen last year. Broderick Jones goes the one pick in front of us. I think smart move would have been Anton Harrison, if I'm not mistaken. He wound up having a really nice year, and he was taken tail end of the first round, I think. That would have been like the next O lineman. JSN, I was like hot and cold on. I thought, that should be the pick based on need, but I don't know if he was the best player at that point. Was there a player last year, like when we took Will McDonald, that you thought was like, hey, this should be the pick?
Well, Antoine Harrison was one of the ones I thought. Thought we might trade back and grab him. There was a whole bunch of the last thing I expected was Will McDonald. I thought if they can't trade back, you take JSN. That's what I was thinking. If you can't, in my mind, I was like, no trade back, JSN. You have to shrug your shoulder and say, I know we want an offensive lineman, but sometimes you're in a position where you just have to go best available, and the best available has to align somewhat with position. And you always want to grab a great wide receiver when they're there. So if you can't get the number one position in needs, grab a great wide receiver.
John says Clemens might be on the bubble. You think he comes back thinner? I think he will. I think he had such a rough go of it last year. Like, to me, if he doesn't drop the weight and he continues to play the way he played last year, I don't think he makes this team. And I don't think that would be a very surprising cut. But I think if he does drop the weight and he has any sort of, progression from year one to now, then I think I would be a little surprised. What are your thoughts on Clemens?
I think that he is in danger. It wouldn't be a shock, but I think he's going to make the team. I think he had that sophomore thing that Saleh even once talked about it. Like players after that first year when he comes with the bat, and I think he was thinking more about image, and I think that the reality check was there. I think he probably did a lot of soul searching, and I think that's why you've seen the weight change, because I think he's recognizing that he has to save his career now. So I'm expecting him to kind of gravitate towards the promise he had in his rookie year. Not promise like star, but, solid role player that, would have a career. I think that's what he's working for. And I think that he's going to make the team, and we probably should see him rebound a little bit and be better. But I don't doubt that he's definitely not. His job security is not 100% secure.
John comes in with another one. Says, use the two big backs to wear down defenses, then set Breece loose on them. So it's kind of like a chicken or the egg argument, right? Like, do you wear them down with Breece and his speed and his athleticism, and then do you hit them with the power and just break their will to want to play the game? Or do you do it the other way around, like John's saying, where you just, batter and bruise them up initially, and then Breece runs wild in like the second half? How do you see this? I guess what percentage of rushing snaps do you see Breece getting, and how do you think they deploy the two backs with him?
I could see the higher level of mixing them up be in the first quarter for that reason, to try to wear them down a little bit for him. But he's still going to get 50% of it. I mean, he's the bell cow back. They said it. You're not going to see him not play the first quarter, but maybe the biggest mix of those guys. But I think the time you're really going to see them is, especially like a guy like Isaiah Thomas, is fourth quarter when we have a lead. I think, and we go to that kind of run the clock out kind of thing. We're up by a lot. Now we're just kind of grinding the ball. I think that's what you're going to see the power backs for. You'll see some of Braden, but I think that's where you really see a lot of Isaiah. And I think Braden Allen will be the guy you see sharing the snaps like we were talking about in that first quarter, like to help wear down. I think you'll see him coming in to spell Breece Hall when he needs a break, like for a drive or a series of a few plays. So I think it's kind of a combination of both. A lot of mixing in the first quarter, and when we have a lead, fourth quarter, I think you're going to see a lot of ground and pound, and I don't think it's going to be Breece Hall doing that.
So I didn't realize this. Sean says 12, 13, 73, and 90 are our retired numbers. We only have 4 retired numbers. I mean, I guess when you look at our history, it's not like, chock full of studs, but like I'm a little surprised it's only 4 numbers. Does that seem right to you?
We just don't seem big on retiring numbers. We have our Ring of Honor. Maybe they don't like to do it. They want to keep it just really exclusive. But man, he's a really good player not to include it like at the highest honor,
I do really like how the Cowboys do it with the wide receiver number. like where Irvin and Dez and CeeDee Lamb and like everyone winds up wearing the same number. I think that's kind of cool. Like
Yeah.
if obviously Sauce is wearing number 1, but if another corner came in and it was like a lights out corner to wear number 24, like that'd be kind of like interesting. I feel like if it's the same position and like rotating it through, I don't know. I could be sold on wearing legacy numbers, but obviously only having 4 is, it feels surprising to me, honestly.
Yeah. I like the idea of that too, that you say it. Like that would be a great way to go. It's like you earn that number, but you'd have to earn it though. You don't get it as a rookie. You have to earn the number when you talk about that. Like, you know,
I feel like
next,
that's fun. It brings the legacy players back into the fold, kind of like you could do some type of ceremony of Revis handing over the jersey, like, all right, here you go, wear it with honor, something along those lines. Stiggers Boots comes in and says, is there going to be an increased role for Sherwood? Green Bean has been waiting for this moment. I like Sherwood. I'm a fan of him. I think having him back up Mosley and Quincy makes me feel pretty good. I'm excited to see what Zaire Barnes ultimately ends up being throughout training camp. I think we still have Nasir Dean under contract as well. Obviously, we want to see as much Mosley and Quincy, the 2 stud linebackers. They might be the best duo in pro football last year. What do you think of Sherwood's role and just the linebacker depth in general behind Mosley and Quincy?
I love it. I'm a big Sherwood guy. I believe in him. But, I think that's like the cost of staying healthy. Knock on wood that we stay healthy. But what are you going to do? You bring in a guy because you have to have a third linebacker you can trust. You can't assume no one's going to get hurt. You want to have someone really good. I think they've done a great job developing this kid. They found him, switched his position, developed him. And wouldn't you know, we're just staying healthy. So I think that, it's just, there's just no open door for him right now. Maybe we'll see a little bit more of him because CJ is getting older, and maybe to keep him fresh, maybe Sherwood will get an opportunity to rotate in a little bit more than he has.
GVH has an interesting question. Do you see a world where we are able to stop the run but keep Reddick's percentage down low enough to keep his trade pick low? I just want to win. So obviously you're going to do whatever you can to win. But if the Jets are in a winning scenario where you're being able to pin Reddick's ears back, I don't think the other team's going to be running the ball much. So I think you set yourself up in such a way that maybe you use some of those run-stopping DNs earlier in the game. And as you accumulate points and work your way into more pressure situations for that opposing team, I think you will be able to avoid those rushing issues that maybe plagued our team in the past because obviously we didn't have leads.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. I think that we're going to try to win games. And if the formula says that he's going to get a lot of reps for that to happen, if that's what the reality is going to be, that we need him in there more to win games, then that's what it's going to be. But if we're dominating people and we're, the dream comes true, what we're all hoping for, and we're elite and we're great and we're putting up lots of points and shutting guys down, then I think you're going to see him play a lot less reps in the second half and at certain times. And it won't only be because of the trade value of the draft pick, but it'll also be just because you want to keep guys fresh. You don't want to wear them down if you don't have to.
Now we're heading into this final part of I don't want to say the first part of the offseason, but it feels like that June 1st mark is kind of like a little bit of like a tipping point for where things might happen. Like maybe you see some transactions happen after June 1st because some salary cap relief happens at that point. But what is there a player out there or a position out there that you could see the Jets possibly adding to prior to the start of training camp that maybe we're not that we're not thinking about, but is there a player out there that you like?
Well, if we were wrong and we do spend money and we made a move, I wouldn't be shocked if it was safety. If it was, there was, I think is Simmons still out there?
He is, yeah. That would be the move I'd want to make too.
Yeah, that would be a move. I mean, I know they like Tony Adams a lot. I know they like these guys, but there's a difference between guys you like and just making your team better and saying, just an opportunity to get better. And that's the kind of guy who could come in and, He's not, it's not just like a little bit of an ad. That's like like in some ways like an Hassan Reddick. It's the kind of guy that will move the needle a little bit, and we're already so good. So you move the needle at some point, we're talking about becoming maybe one of the best defenses we've ever seen this team put on the field.
Yeah, I feel like secondary wise, safety is the position that, for the last few years, I've always said like, man, we've had some good safeties prior to this Joe Douglas regime and prior to like Robert Saleh being here. And every year I'm like, man, I still see that as a weakness. And every year they're like, nope, we're rolling with the guys we got. We're not going to go out and we're going to spend more money. So like, I would love to see Simmons. I think you're absolutely right. That seems like the biggest leap up in production that we could possibly have from a talent perspective. Do you think it makes more sense? So I know I geared it towards what player we could add, but do you think it makes more sense to save some of the salary cap space we ultimately have at the end of training camp to sign a player prior to the season, or to try to make an in-season move during the season? Or do you just restructure contracts in season to make that extra money space work at the deadline?
I think if you have an opportunity to make the team better, you do it, and you worry about the restructuring later if you have to do it again.
I think that's fair.
I mean, yeah, we got a window here. We got a window to win. And you'd think that GM, both our leadership is feeling that pressure. So you'd have to think that they're going to jump at a chance to make the team better.
I want to get your thoughts briefly on the one Jets drive or Flight 24, whatever, behind the scenes view of Joe Douglas talking about how the Falcons wanted to come up to number 10 after making their selection at number 8. Like, obviously he was talking just prior to them making the number 8 selection, or at least that's the way it was edited to look. What would you have thought if the Jets traded down from number 10 all the way back? I think it would have wound up being 43. They made a pick at 35, but I think they traded up to 35 to get it. So seemingly the Jets had a 2025 first on the table, plus, a second and a third round pick to make it relatively equal, assuming there was no overpay. But what would you have thought if the Jets moved down
to 43?
I know.
It's just not the right year for it. It wasn't the right year for it. If they would do that 2 years ago when we were building, there were times where, even then I don't know, because we needed to get some star power. But maybe when we had 2 picks, although we got Garrett Wilson and Sauce, which one would you want to have lost? I just don't think this was the right year for it. If we would have had more money and we would have signed another tackle via free agency that was kind of youngish and not injury prone for right tackle, then maybe you can make that, maybe. But we're win now, and we need, and not only we win now, we got a guy who makes us a deeper offensive line. He brings depth. So now if Smith goes out, we have a real guy to bring in. But also you got to think about the future. I mean, we have only 2 or 3 guys. Really, if you don't count AVT, we only have 2 out of the 5 that are even signed for next year on the offensive line. So this pick not only gives us the depth this year, but it gives us a future left tackle.
So Sean has a nice question here to round us out. How much would we have to pay Simmons? We still got to pay our draft class. If we got him, would we be able to grab anyone else to bolster other positions? So the Jets draft pool, at least prior to the draft, I don't know what it currently is, but prior to the draft, the Jets were going to be $4.5 million to sign their draft class. And that's because as you add guys to the top of the roster, it pushes guys off the bottom of the roster. And only the top 51 contracts on your roster count towards the salary cap. So it's not, even though it's a $10 million total pay that you're adding or that you're paying out for these rookies, it's only going to be a difference of 4.5. Over the cap has us at cap space of $9.2 million right now. I don't know how accurate that is. That may not have certain players attributed to it yet. And I would imagine that does not have the rookies in there. At least I don't think I see them. Like, I don't see Olu Fashanu listed. So I would say, yeah, they're not, the rookie pool hasn't been taken out. Figure we're sitting somewhere around $5 million, $4 or $5 million. There's a lot of restructures the Jets could still do, what's known as simple restructures. You don't need player intervention to save that salary cap space, because it's just converting what they would have made this year into a signing bonus to spread it over multiple years or over 2 years or whatever they deem it to be. Do you think that's enough money to add in a player like a Simmons?
Yeah, because one thing that, going into this offseason, technically with all restructuring, we could have gotten up to $70+ million in cap. Now, that's not something you want to do for the future because that's just pushing we become New Orleans. But the reality is we used a lot less of the restructuring than we all thought to fill all those positions because of the types of deals JD worked out, right? So we have a lot more flexibility than people think. We don't want to use it if we don't have to because there is a price to pay, but it's there. So right now, I think we really didn't hit that, tap that nearly as much as everyone thought they were going to. There's still a lot of flexibility, but you want to do it really carefully, and you want to, because you don't want to completely abandon the future and the strategy and the plan going forward after that. But can we get Simmons? If we get him at a price they like, we absolutely have the flexibility to do it.
Jeremy, we have reached the end of our show. I want to thank you so much for filling in for our lovely Dom C, who is busy with some kids' sporting events and whatnot. So, Dom, we missed you tonight. Jeremy, let us know what you got going on and where they could find you.
Well, I'll be back with O'Leary on Thursday, and I'm at Jets Chaos. So just type in Jets Chaos, it'll pop right up, and you get to see this egghead all you want.
I love you, Egghead. Thank you so much for filling in. Boys and girls, hit that like button on the way out. Make sure you head over, watch that Knicks game, show a little support. Fingers crossed, boys and girls. J-E-T-S.
J-E-T-S.